Our son is now 43 years old and was diagnosed when he was just 2 with brain damage and global development delay. Luckily, we were referred to the Mary Sheridan Centre, an assessment centre in Canterbury, and were helped by a speech therapist, as Stephen was not talking, and as a family we were taught sign language. The occupational therapist there taught me that when Stephen was doing a task, to help him with the middle part of the task if he was struggling, but always let him complete the task. For example, put the last piece of a jigsaw in. This means he remembers the satisfaction of completing a task and encourages him to do it again. We still use this principle today. At 5, he went to the Aspen unit at Whitfield, where he started talking when he was 7, and at 11 went to Harbour School, where they said he was functioning at the lower end of their range. When Stephen reached his final year at Harbour School, a new idea was tried, and the pupils were given bus passes to use on service buses. Having always been in taxis or special school buses, this was a great worry to us, but we realised he'd soon be going out into the great big wide world, and at least he had other pupils with him when he changed buses in Dover. This turned out to be a big step to independence. When Stephen was 11, he also started attending a scout group so he could mix with all sorts of children. Because of all the support we had from the Mary Sheridan Centre, and no one suggested it, we did not have any dealings with social services. So when Stephen left school, his aim was to get a job, just like everyone else. He had 2 years at Pfizer, gardening on their youth training scheme. Part of this was to attend Broadstairs College, to try to improve his poor language and maths skills. This involved going on the train to Broadstairs. So we walked through the journey from the station and back again, pointing out landmarks, so he could do the journey on his own. We still use this method when he has to go to places he's not been before. Stephen had several jobs and lots of years at the job centre. We knew the disability employment advisor quite well, as if Stephen had an interview, I used to go with him. One day, she suggested that as parents we were getting older, and perhaps we should contact social services. Stephen's care manager suggested Stephen went to Skillnet, now called BMIX, 1 day a week. A lady also involved with Skillnet ran Voice for Kent, which was a speaking up group, which Stephen also attended. Both organisations encourage everyone to have a voice, and Stephen certainly found his, having not talked for so many years. When he was co-chair of the Kent Learning Disability Partnership Board, he co-hosted an event attended by nearly 200 people in the Leescliffe Hall. When no one else arrived on stage, he ad-libbed into the microphone like a professional. However, like a lot of people with learning disabilities, he tends to say exactly what he is thinking. I can see people laughing, which worries me sometimes, and presumably worries you as well. At home, we regularly got Stephen to help us. Washing up, hanging out washing, all the mundane tasks. But it meant he felt included doing jobs just like his sister. We gradually built his confidence doing things and started leaving him to sort out a meal for himself. This extended to leaving him for a day, then overnight, and eventually weekends when we went to see his sister, who moved to the other end of Kent. He knew he could phone, or we could come back quickly if he needed help. He was learning to look after himself, but in very familiar surroundings. We often talked to Stephen about living on his own, but it was not until 2011 he decided he wanted to do this. We had set up a trust fund, as suggested by Peter Cox, and were very lucky to be able to use inherited money to buy a house. Part of the funding is from the trust, so we have the security that it would be flagged up if anyone tried to persuade Stephen to sell his house, even when we have gone. Stephen needs help with finance, Direct debits are a godsend and help with correspondence as his reading skills are still poor. He's quite happy living on his own. He's often out somewhere during the day, either at work with BMIX or attending one of the many meetings and groups he belongs to. If he's not, then he likes to come to us for his lunch and then goes home mid-afternoon. When we go to his house, I try to remember that it is his house, his ways, just like I do with his sister's house. We've found that we don't know what we don't know until we find something out. A big help has been the carers' coffee mornings we attend in Deal, organised by Michelle. She also has a similar group in Thanet and runs several speaking up groups for people with learning difficulties. Please ask her about these groups or talk to us. We'd love to meet you if you live in the Deal area. When we were thinking about what to say today, we asked Stephen what he thought had helped him get to where he is today. After his usual reply of, "I don't know," when pushed, he said that people believed in me. BMIX have believed in Stephen. They like to nurture people and give everyone a voice. They like to co-produce their work, so they employ Stephen and others with learning difficulties to work alongside their other staff, and Stephen is also a non-executive BMIX board member. We have also always believed in Stephen and have always tried to let him do things just like we let his sister. We were worried when she wanted to try things, and probably the worry is greater with Stephen, but part of life is letting your children go and try things. I get very annoyed by a lot of people using mobile phones all the time, but they do mean we can send Stephen off nowadays into the big wide world, knowing he can contact us if he has a problem. That's the story of how we've got to where we are today with Stephen.